Hi everyone, today I want to showcase an Escape from Tarkov side project that I've been working on called FleaTooltip. The goal of this application is to help you know what the current flea market prices are for an item and if it is required for any quest or hideout upgrades without having to constantly alt-tab back and forth in the middle of a raid. At the same time, you can optionally track every item that you scan so that once you're full, you can easily see in descending order which items are worth the least and discard them from your inventory to make room for more valuable items. And if you're like me and enjoy seeing your total loot value go up throughout the raid, then you'll love this. As you can see in the short clips that are being played in the background, all you have to do is hover over an item, and within less than a second you'll get a tooltip with all of the market/quest info that you need to make a split-second decision on whether or not you should loot an item or not. Now, before I get deeper into the installation/setup of the application, just know that there is a non-overlay mode that will allow you to put the window on another screen in case you're worried of this being considered a cheat and or against the TOS. However, once you get to see how the application works, hopefully those concerns will go away. To get started with installation and setup now, you're just going to want to open up Chrome or whatever you use, and then go to FleaTooltip.com, and on here you should see a View on GitHub button. And if you click that, it'll open up the GitHub page. You can go through the code if you want, but over here on the right is releases, and you'll just want to go ahead and download the latest zip for the latest release. And so once that's done, you can go ahead and open it up and actually go ahead and extract all. It doesn't really matter where you extract it, but once it's done extracting, you'll go ahead and open it, and you should see the FleaTooltip application exe right here. The first time you run this, you might run into an issue where Windows Defender says that it doesn't recognize the app. You'll just want to go ahead and press more info at the top and then press continue or run anyways. But once you get this open, the first time you open it, it's going to shortly after ask you to calibrate it. So I'm going to do this here, and you'll want the game running. So I'll go ahead and get it running. So at this point, I've got it all loaded here. It says initial screen calibration needed, and I also have the game loaded. Please press F6 to start the screen scanning configuration process. So if you press F6 now, it should initialize it, and then it says please hover over any item and press F6. So when you first run this, this isn't set to always stay on top of the window. So if I click out of it, it'll go away. We'll talk about that setting later. But basically what you want to do, if you don't have a second monitor, because if you have a second monitor, you can just move it over to the side and it should be good. And you can see how it's working. But if you don't, just go ahead and hover over an item. One thing to note is that if the item's like all the way over here on the right, it just won't work. You need it to be somewhere in the center, because how it works is that it looks for the gray of the bottom left of the tooltip, which for a lot of monitors is usually 13 pixels up and then 13 pixels to the right. But at this point, if I press F6, if you don't have two monitors, you won't think anything is going on, but just give it about 10 seconds. Okay, so then if I open this back up, it says configuration has been complete. Please restart this application to save changes. So now I can go ahead and close it. So at this point, you're just going to want to relaunch your application. And so once it's up, it should look something like this. And so one of the first things I'd recommend doing, if you're not using a two monitor setup, is to go into the settings up here and then turn on always on top. So if I close out of this now if I click onto here, this window stays on top. And it's just like a normal window, kind of similar to something like the Discord overlay. All it does is put it at the topmost spot and keeps it there. But now if I hover over the pack of nails, you can see now it is showing up in this window right here. So at this point, you could use the app just as it is. If you just hover over items, you should be able to scan them, and then they'll appear on here. One limitation though is, like I said, the tooltip needs to be in the top right of the cursor. And so if I hover over this 6B13, it doesn't work unless I move my cursor all the way over to the left, and then it's able to scan it. So it's just one thing to keep in mind. The nice thing is that when you're in RAID, typically the inventories that come up usually are like around here, and so you don't run into this issue very often, if at all. But just going through some of the settings, you can have sound effects if you'd like. Basically, it just makes a noise when you scan something. So if I scan the Zippo lighter, it makes a little ding noise. And then in the instance where I've already scanned something, so let's say I scan this CPU fan, it'll make a flat noise, and you can change the volume as well. But that's basically just to indicate that you've already scanned this before, and that at this point, what you could do is you could press F4, and that adds 1 to that amount, and so it counts as having 2 of these and adds that to the total. So if I add another 1, the total goes up even more. And then just talking about some of the other hotkeys, if you press F2, that removes the cheapest item or the lowest value item that's in your inventory. So when you're looting, if you're looking through your items and you have this Clash 2U as your lowest item, you can know to discard it and then press F2 again to remove that from your inventory to basically stop tracking it. The other hotkey is to remove the most recently scanned item. So if I press F3 here, it'll remove the con being that I just scanned. One thing to note is that when you scan something, the green item is the most recently scanned item, the red item is the lowest value item, but then if they're both the lowest value item and the most recently scanned item, they show purple. So you can press F3 or F2 to remove it. And then the last thing is that if you want to hide this, let's say you have it set to always be on top and you have it in the bottom corner here, you can just press F1 and that'll hide it from your screen, and then you just press F1 to bring it back. And then when you're out of RAID or you die or whatever, you can just hold F3 or F2 just to clear it out, and it'll go back to 0. But talking about some of the settings here, so if I open this up, I'm going to turn off sound effects. But basically, what you can do is you can turn on frameless mode. So this will restart the application. So at this point, the application should be launched in frameless mode. So as you can see, it's a little transparent, but you can still change its size like so. So, just I'd shown earlier in the demo where I had it all the way here at the bottom. This kind of shows that really, although this is an overlay, all it really is doing is just removing the title bar from the window and making it a little transparent. You can also grab, just as a note, you can grab the 3 little bars right here, the hamburger bar, to drag the window around since it no longer has a title bar at the top to drag. But if I open back the settings here, you can also add in the Tarkov Market API key. So if you use the Tarkov Market website, you can add in your API key. That usually just ends up helping with more accurate prices and also faster loading times. And then if you run into an issue where it seems like you're hovering over an item, it's not working very well, you could try lowering your sensitivity. And then down here you have the border color override, and I'll talk about how if you're running into issues, you could use this to fix up some of those issues. But if I scroll up at the top here, you see enable tooltips. So if I go ahead and run this, this will add in the actual tooltips on hover. The way this works is pretty similar to how this is working right now, right? Where there's no frame, it's transparent, and so when you run the tooltips, that'll launch an application. And so now, if I move this down to the bottom here, I hover over the pack of nails, you can see it shows that these are nails. There's the flea market price at the top, then you have the sell to trader price, and it'll tell you who it sells to the highest, and then any quest that it might require. And then as you can see right next to stash 2 there is a check mark just to indicate that that's required to be found in RAID. If I hover over like CPU fan, so kind of similar thing, you see the name, the price, the sell to trader price, and then also the quests that are needed. So you need 15 for farming, part 4. So if you've reached this point and you're running into issues, definitely join our Discord. You can find that on the FleaTooltip.com website. You can just shoot me a message or shoot a message in the general chat there. But one of the biggest indicators for the scanning not working is that when you scan, right now I have the colors in as red 82, green 89, and blue 90. Basically, that color that's in the bottom left of the tooltip that you see appearing, the Tarkov one for Con Beanie there, that's the colors for that border. And so if you're running into any issues, what you'll want to do is take a screenshot of the tooltip and then use a color picker tool. You can go online and search up like color picker, and you can check to see what color that is, put that in here, restart it, and then hopefully it'll work. But other than that, that's about it. Like I said, if you run into any issues or you have any suggestions, just feel free to join the Discord and just shoot me a message on there.